We'll get this thing going. Okay, item 532, I will call in order. Roll call.
James Seal,
Here.
Andy Dennison is excused, Lydia Patty Ruffini.
Here.
Chris Petras. Okay. Aileen McDade Coleman,
Present.
Bob Shay.
Here.
Hans Pepper,
Here.
Mark Strong,
Here.
Heidi Nightingale,
Present.
Elaine Daly,
Here.
Tricia Kerr,
Here.
Christina Clarko,
Here.
Michael Didio is excused, Brian Mulrow,
Here.
David Gould.
Here. Would you all stand for the pledge?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Okay, I think you all know what we're doing tonight, this presentation by Lynn for the budget and myself, and then we'll be going into executive session later, but we do have one resolution I'd like to bring up tonight, and this is kind of important. We don't want to waste our meeting. I sent it to you on email, and it should be on your desks. Do you want me to read through it, or do you just want to vote on it? Has everybody read it and understand it? Okay,
Fully understand it, so
move it, second? Oh, I'm sorry, who said they didn't understand?
me.
All right, go ahead, what was the question?
I guess, like, are we contracting with Cayuga?
Yes.
Okay. And my other question is she gonna be assisting with the transition for the finance department that was laid out when we voted on that, in terms of looking at consolidation of services, financial services, various aspects of payroll potentially, or different aspects of the financial pieces of the county government, looking at. putting
That
them
wasn't
under the
discussed, so
finance
this is
department.
just to help. We met with the finance ladies 2 days ago and talked to them at length. What they know, what they don't know for the future. And that we all decided at that time that Mary Beth needed to come back and help them. She agreed to that, so what you're asking was not part of this agreement, no.
I'm not
That would probably be up
comfortable
to the
voting on
finance
anything
director.
more related to the finance department until we get an update on where things are at with it.
Well, that would be up to the finance director, and they're doing interviews as we speak. I mean,
Well,
I ain't gonna update you on that.
I'm gonna vote no on this
Okay.
until
That's fine.
what.
That's fine.
Just for clarification,
Mhm.
this resolution is to keep her affiliated with the county during the new hire and to transition the duties that she does to the rest of the staff and to the new person, because
Yes.
she herself did have functions within the finance department that she took care of, that no one else
Right.
ideally knows how to do
That's
without,
exactly what you.
without her orientation.
Right. There will be a contract. Fred's writing up a contract as we speak, but there will be a contract with this too.
So that you can put someone in the position and use this as a contract for her to come in for technical assistance and orientation.
Yes,
Is there a cap on the amount of hours? that
there
she
will
can
be.
work?
In the contract, we've already talked, I believe it's 15 hours a week. So there will be a cap.
Dollar amount, yeah.
No, just hours, 15 hours at the max a week. Jim?
So the 15,000 in here, transferring one budget line item to another to cover that services.
Mhm.
Is that not the cap?
It is the cap.
That's 120 hours.
It is the cap.
Okay.
Yeah, and I don't think it'll be anywhere near that, but we'll see. We'll see how quick the other ladies learn how to do these duties.
So there is a cap.
Yes,
That's why you're putting from point one into the contract line, to the professional services
Yeah.
line, move the salary line out.
yes. Anybody else? Okay, a motion? After the question, all right, I second.
Yeah.
Any other further questions? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, everyone. Okay, let's get right into Lynn's presentation. Where is next? I just want to thank Lynn and certainly Sarah putting these things together and working on the budget. I never realized how hard it was to do until this last 3 months. So, Lynn, thank you so very much. And I think everybody, I think it's very self-explanatory in here, but I'm sure there'll be some questions, and that's why Lynn's here. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay, so we're just going to talk some overall budget goals first. This budget that is being proposed to you tonight, and you do have your budget books there on your desk. We kept a minimal property tax increase. It does include a 1.5% increase in the property taxes. We are well below the tax cap that we have to comply with. It's actually the calculation that goes with the tax cap. I know a lot of people, you may have heard there's a 2% tax cap, but there's a calculation that involves a lot of other aspects such as pilots. And you can carry over tax levies that you didn't levy in prior years to the current year. So actually, we could have raised the taxes to almost by 6% and still been under the tax cap. So that's just kind of information for you. This budget also continues to manage the fund balances and stay within the fund balance policies of the county. We are investing in some capital projects, and you'll see that in some further discussions. And we have some strategic investments that are larger than usual in the Board of Elections, Sheriff's Department, Information Technology, and the Parks area. This page here is in your budget book. I believe it's maybe the second or third page. You see the overall financial view here. You can see the overall spending in this budget is $171 million. In total, we are using $3.5 million combined of the fund balances. In the general fund, it is a $3 million draw on that. You also can see there's a transfer, that's at 7.4 million. That's how the A fund gives money over to the highway fund for operations. And on the bottom there, that's the actual tax levy in dollars, the property tax levy, $42,949,000. That's what we would be proposing. The next slide is just our bar graph for you that shows the tax levy in dollar value over the past years. And obviously you can see we've had gradual increases in it over time. I'm going to highlight just a couple of the key budget pressures that we kind of are dealing with in this budget. We do have a 3.5% increase in health insurance. We are having some investments in the sheriff vehicles and election machines, which is unusual. There are salary increases in here for union and non-union employees that we're estimating to have to pay in 2023. There are capital investments in buildings and IT department. We are looking at an unusual increase in preschool program expenses. That's the local share is expected to go up about $200,000. That mostly is based on enrollment and the number of children in the program is higher than it has been in the past. And that would be for the tuition that we have to pay for the children to attend the program. We're having increased investment in the highway. We are transferring $400,000 more from the A fund to the D fund, the highway fund, to support the requests of the highway superintendent. We also have some increased costs for the assigned council program. That we'll probably get into more details. We review that individual budget, but there has been some programmatic changes that are just starting to see where sometimes we're having to pay double the rate to the attorneys on some certain felony cases. That's just something kind of new that started. So we're not quite certain where that's going to go, but we have included some additional funding to cover those costs if they end up coming true. We also had to reduce the revenue that we get for inmates at the jail. We definitely have had less people boarded in there than we have in the past.
Can I just make a comment?
Yeah.
And that has nothing to do with the sheriff. The sheriff's doing an outstanding job. This is the feds that are coming in, and we have no control of that, or inmates from other counties. So I think Brian's doing an outstanding job getting people in there, getting federal inmates in there. So I just wanted everybody to know this is nothing that Brian, it's out of our control. People that come in our, except for the locals. Okay, thank you.
Some budget enhancers that we have is the sales tax increase that we are able to put in the budget here. I've increased the budgeted amount by $1.9 million over 2022. The sales tax collections, I'm estimating to come in at $28,600,000. I'm budgeting for next year for 23, 27,550,000. That is reduced. I mean, as you remember, we did pass the resolution to stop the home heating fuel collection of sales tax. So I am projecting it to be lower in 23 than it was in 22. We also would be able to use ARPA funds for some in capital investments, and they'll be in the presentation later where we're proposing to use some of the ARPA funds to cover some one-time expenses that are for capital that we would have had to put in the budget instead. The fund balance that we're proposing using is about $3 million. That's in the tentative budget. I'm estimating that the fund balance at the end of 2022 will be approximately $25 million. We had estimated using about 2.5 million in the 2020 budget. That will not end up happening. So with the budget that's proposed, it would then drop the budget down to 22 million if we did end up using the fund balance next year. The fund balance policy currently is 10 to 15% of the total revenues. So that would leave us in a range of 14.9 million to 22.3 million. So as you can see, I'm estimating that we will be at the very top end of our range for the policy at the end of 2023. I can share this PowerPoint with people afterwards, so you don't have to
Yes, and
frivolously write down your notes.
yeah.
This is just a graphic for you to show over time how much of the fund balance we've been budgeting in our budget. This isn't how much we've used. This is how much has been budgeted in the different fiscal years that we've had. And you can see it was significantly higher way back in 2013. We have been able to reduce the draw of the fund balance, but we are increasing it. But the fund balance also has increased over time, and don't necessarily want to keep letting that build up too much to stay within our policy. This pie chart is a graphic for you, just to kind of see where are the revenues coming from that supports the spending that we do. You can see the largest place of the pie is the property tax. Then next is the sales tax. We do get a significant amount of state and federal aid. Most of the federal aid is probably all in the Department of Social Services. There's very small amounts in some other people's departments, probably from some grants, but those are for special purposes, not general operations. And then the fees, that would be a lot of Medicaid fees would go in there. That's the biggest amount probably that mental health gets. The health department has some. And then some other, smaller fees that different departments are able to charge people. That would be also like motor vehicle, the fees that we get there, that would fall into that category. The next picture shows you how sales tax has been performing compared to the budget over time. The yellow line being the budget and the gray line being the actual sales tax that we've received. So you can see obviously for 21 and 22, it's been significantly over budget. Those are definitely, anomalies. Typically, we run pretty close to the sales tax. So, it's a big question what's going to happen in 2023, if there will be an economic downturn. If there is, when will it happen? But you could see by that other pie chart where you see how large the sales tax is, why that is a critical number that we do monitor during the year. And you want to keep a close eye on that to see if there's any trends that we have to be concerned about during the year. Just a summary for you that where I'm estimating will be at the end of 2023, the fund balances. The fund balances for the highway funds are going to be significantly lower than we sometimes have had them. Sometimes they've run $1 million, $1.5 million, sometimes $2 million. We have been investing in the roads a lot more the last couple of years. We do have a highway reserve, so we'll see that next. But like I said, the A fund is at the top of the band where we should be for our fund balance. This next slide shows you where we are with our reserves as of the end of September. So we do still have the first one is a repairs reserve for buildings. The second one would be more for capital investments in buildings. And the last one is the highway. in some of the past budget years, we have allocated part of the reserves towards the highways budget. We did not do that this time. That would be more for unusual, unexpected things. So we did not plan on using any of it in the budget this year. But you do have almost $6 million in your capital that you can also use towards a new building if that's something that we move forward with. This next chart shows you your expenditures. You can see salaries and fringe benefits, that would be all the staff. This is, a huge source of spending in the county. Most departments, that is what their spending is. Equipment is very small. You can see it's only 1%. We have the college contribution. Medicaid, we do split that out by its separate self there. That is a weekly payment that we have to make, and it's set by the state. For us, that's how the county pays for its Medicaid expenditures. We have some debt service expenses for our bonds. Then we have the transfer to the highway. That's the amount that we spend from the property tax that we've raised over to operate the highway. And then the other, that would be your contractual. But the reason the pie is so big is because it really includes all of the other expenditures for social services. So that would be your foster care, that would be your public assistance, that would be your hoteling people who are homeless. So that is a large portion of what we really spend our money on also. For the budget requests that we had from departments, Dave and met with all the departments and reviewed their budget requests. We had only a request for 2 full-time positions. Neither of them were included in the tentative budget. And for part-time positions, there were 4 that were requested and 2 were included in the budget. The 2 part-time positions, one's in the mental health department. It's a part-time staff social worker. And the other part-time one is in the probation department, which is 1 part-time clerk position. This again is just a summary of some investments. In the IT department, we have included almost $700,000 in the budget for equipment, which would involve servers or any other type of things that Tom is investing into. We have also included about $400,000 in here for new sheriff's vehicles, for the vehicles that are beginning to come off lease. For those of you who are newer, we several years ago decided to, instead of purchasing the vehicle like we normally do, getting about 5 of them every year, we actually got leases for a lot of them, and they are starting to come off the lease. And so now we've decided to go back to buying them instead of paying the lease expense with interest when we really have the money to be buying them ourselves. So we're going to be switching back. So unfortunately, this is a bigger expenditure than we normally will have. And we're keeping it in the budget because we're also going to have to buy them again next year. So we kind of want to get them into the base, but then it should level off again, maybe less. I believe this is 7 vehicles that we have in here. One of the things we did include here is that a couple of the requests that we had for some big investments, we're proposing that we're going to use ARPA funds for them instead. They are not included in this tentative budget. One is a part of the jail roof that I believe goes over the 911 center. Voting machines. Voting machines actually is the total cost for them is $420,000. We do have a grant for portion of it, which is about $184,000. That is in the budget with the grant funds. This would be to purchase the remaining group of them and be able to get them all together. So they're all working on the same software and they can tally the votes at the end of the elections. There's a concern that you can't have, different machines operating together, that just isn't going to work. So that we did include there. And we also included funds to replace the shelter at the Emerson Park, the one that they did have to take down already. So this would be a replacement of a shelter that was already there. And that totals up on there for $806,000. So just, in summary for you, we have 1.5% increase in the tax levy in this budget. We're trying to maintain our fund balance and reserves at policy levels that we have kind of set as a legislature. And we are continuing to keep some investments in the capital and equipment replacements. There are several other, when we get into detail by department, we can talk about different requests that people have had, and we were able to keep most things in the budget, so vehicles, plows and equipment at the highway. They were all, kept in here that people had requested. The next steps for this budget procedure that, some of you know and some of you don't, is we are going to be having special Ways and Means meetings, where at those meetings, one night we have some committees coming, another night the other committees are coming. And what I will do is I will prepare kind of a summary of each department, just to make it easier for you to kind of highlight what changed in here, if anything changed. A lot of departments have no big changes. It's just the same staff that they currently have, the same contractual expenses they currently have, and they have really not changed significantly. One of the things that I can tell you, that because we don't have settled union agreements, except for kind of SEAC, you'll see the big account in there at the beginning called provision for salary adjustments. That's where we estimate the additional costs for salary increases for the non-negotiated and the union people, since we haven't decided anything. So for a lot of the budgets, you won't see increases maybe in their salary line, because that's not where it's budgeted. It's budgeted somewhere else, just so you kind of know that. When we have contracts settled, we don't do it that way. We put them in everybody's department, so we can see more of the impact of that.
Did you set aside?
I did $1 million. There's $1 million in that account.
Okay. That was short and sweet. Any questions? I'm not explaining it to you, I was on the site over here, but we will be meeting with the different departments at 2 different ways and means. So you'll be able to talk to the departments, ask them whatever you want in their department lines. And that can take place 2 ways and means, special ways and means. Come on.
Yeah, and if you have, if you other questions, it would be helpful even if you sent them to me ahead of time, because I could either ask the department to help with the questions and answers, or I can have some time to get some information together. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of information that goes into this. I have a lot of that information, most of it, some of it maybe I don't, or, the department actually can explain certain things better themselves. If you have a certain question about a contractual line or what's included in these lines, we can give you some of that information. It's not always obvious, like professional services, you're just going to see a dollar amount. You're not going to know what we pay out of there unless you're familiar with that department and things they pay. But those are things, we can just tell you ahead of time, and maybe that will answer your question. And you'll be like, oh, I didn't know that was paid out of there, but I'm very familiar with that, expense that they have, and that's fine. And obviously you have the 2 years comparisons. You can see where there's changes between the years.
Okay, I know you're all gonna have a lot of questions after you read this over, as Lynn said, so please either come in and see Lynn or myself, or talk to Lynn or myself, and we'll certainly answer whatever we can. And a lot of questions I think will be answered at these individual ways and means meetings. So is there anybody that has anything right now? Yeah, I'm sorry.
I was wondering, you mentioned there were a few positions that were requested from department heads that weren't.
Yeah, that was on this slide, 2 full-time positions, yes.
Do you have the breakout of those?
Yeah, there were 2 full-time positions in the health department. And there were 2 part-time positions that the county clerk asked for to help work on the Dreams project. But we didn't feel that the Dreams project probably has the funding within it to pay for those additional staffing. And we didn't feel like that we could support the full-time positions being added now in the health department.
So I have a chance in the committee meeting to talk more about those.
Yep.
Good.
So, on that question first. So our employee number, other than what you showed us, is staying the same.
No, I didn't say that. There were quite a lot of positions added during 2022. So all we have talked about is what was requested for 2023. So, this, I can go over this in more detail in another meeting. I didn't really want to, hand it out. But I mean, there are about 20 positions that were added during the year.
Yeah, since the budget was passed.
Yes.
2000.
Some of them do have offsetting revenue, a couple of them. So a few were converted from contractual. So there were probably still probably about 9 to 10 positions that were added during 2022 that were not in the 2022 budget that are still in there. So they are positions that exist, they are filled. So you will have in your book, we have org charts in there before every department, so you can see how many people are in each department. I do have a spreadsheet that I'll probably hand out at our first meeting too, that has the number of positions by several years. I have 5 or 6 years worth of history. That's how many people work in each department, full-time and part-time. So we can look at that.
There was 9 that are in the 23 budget, but there were 20 altogether.
There are, some of them have offsetting revenue or were converted. So like there's 6
So
more
there might be
IT
20
people.
positions, but.
Yeah, I mean, there's 6 more IT people, but we cut their contractual line. So that's not impacting the budget. And a few of them, a couple of the SROs have some revenue that went with them. Employment and training in a position that is fully funded. So some of them do have some revenue that do go against them, but probably almost half of them don't. So we just really talk about what are the requests for 23. We're putting the 23 budget together.
Again, I know there's going to be a million questions that will come up after today, but please get over them or, email or call or come in.
Or you can wait till the budget meeting, and we can talk about it. That would be preferred. Absolutely, absolutely. So especially with something we have, it's gonna take a little bit of time to maybe pull, or I can get the department even to help me with this question by the department. They have a lot of information too to help us.
Good.
So you did say earlier, we could get that.
Yeah, I can send the PowerPoint to the legislators. It's fine. Yep.
Anybody else for anything now? Trish?
I guess just one question about the countywide full valuation. Will that number, is it likely to change or?
I mean, Jenny would say, yes, it could change significantly. I would say absolutely no. She would not say that it would significantly change, but we can ask her for sure what, whether she's missing for a couple adjustments for towns and villages, that could be.
One more question. Do you have a sense of if the 1.5% increase in the property tax stayed? I recall one year there was a 1.9% increase in the property tax, but because of the assessed values of the homes, the actual increase.
Yeah, that's in the book on that page. It shows you that the tax rate is actually going to decrease by 8%.
8%.
Yes.
Okay.
The way we have, it's the color, it's got some colors on it now.
Okay,
That
so
word
that,
right at the
yes,
bottom.
all right, that's what I was looking at. And before it was 2.02. I see that. And now it's 8%, even though you're raising taxes 1.5.
Yeah, because you can see the assessed value is up significantly.
And the raising of the taxes is more just to make sure there's some additional revenue coming in for property tax to offset the, because budget's going from 160 something to 170 something.
I know I mentioned it, and I think I did too, but I'm gonna mention it again. I just want to thank the department. It's been a long 4 months since we started this, and every time we brought them in and talked to them, they were, more than helpful. They were sticking up for their own departments, which they should be, and I appreciate that. And we even had to call 2 or 3 of them back in and say we're cutting something. And they were all very knowledgeable what was going on and very reasonable, I thought. And I want to tell you how much I appreciate all the departments. I mean, that's true. Thank you. Okay, anything else from Lynn or myself? Lynn, thank you so very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Lynn. Thank you.
Okay, we will now go to executive session, the proposed acquisition, sale, or lease of real property. Can I have a motion?
Move it.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
All, anybody against? I want the building committee to come in too, please, if you were on the building committee.
You thought you were getting more.
Don't forget after the meeting, after the executive meeting, we got to
She was.